Have you ever thought about being 30 years old, hearing that you have a terminal disease, and then turning around and thinking, now what? This is not what I envisioned for myself. What about dating? What about kids? What about marriage? What about my job? What about my hobbies? How's this going to change my relationships? Well, today with us on Patient Conversations with Leah, we have our third episode with Clara, who is just that. She's the 30-year-old that was healthy and active and doing all the things that normal 30-year-olds do, to now go to hear this diagnosis and think, I've got to change my thinking. I've got to change what my life might look like.
Yeah, so last year I was actually laid off from my job. And so I was just freelancing and contracting work, and I'm a graphic designer. And so I was on this project up until January when I was diagnosed, and then I just let them know what was going on and they took me off of it and I came back to Iowa. And so for one, it was weird to not have a job and just, be focused on cancer. That was a big change. And the other one was coming home to my childhood bedroom, which you can see here. And, kind of feels like I'm like 16 again in here, but I have made it my own and try to make it like more of a 30-year-old bedroom rather than a teenage bedroom. Luckily for me, my best friends here in Iowa are very supportive and they're great. However, I feel like all of my friends are getting married and starting to have babies. And in fact, three of my best friends here in Iowa had babies like at the same time. And so that was kind of hard. And I get kind of emotional about that because I don't know if I want kids or not, but I want that to be on the table, like an option on the table. And I want that to be my decision. And so that's kind of hard to have them like, they're going through this at the same time together so they can talk about it and they're so excited and their kids are going to grow up together. So I feel a little bit like left out. And so that's been difficult for me. And so then I decided, maybe I need to find like some cancer friends. And so there's this local organization called Above and Beyond Cancer, which is just kind of a support group. They put on different events and stuff for high and also young adults and also all ages of cancer survivors in the Des Moines area. And so I started going to some events, but unfortunately, I'm the youngest person there by like 20 years. So I'm having a hard time like making girlfriends and or meeting somebody to, have a relationship with. And so that's been difficult. I struggled with the relationship stuff because back in April, so I was dating this guy last year when I lived in Colorado, and I was diagnosed in January, like I said, came back to Iowa. All of a sudden, time flies. All of a sudden it's April and my boyfriend hadn't ever visited me or hadn't really made an effort to come see me or, FaceTime me or anything. I was getting upset because, I really needed his support at that time. And last year when, my parents weren't around in Colorado, he was like all I had. And so I couldn't understand how he wasn't being like supportive and like being there for me. And so so I told him, I was like, you said that you were going to come visit and it's been like 3 months already. Like, what's the deal? What's going on? And he basically told me, and part of me is like, I don't know if I want to share this because I don't want to like throw him under the bus, but I do want people to know that this happens. He told me that the cancer was too much. And if he saw me, it would become too real for him and he just couldn't handle it. And, that's fine. And that's fair to say. But that was really hurtful to me. And to drag me along for those 3 months, hoping that, he'd still be there was really hard. And so then after that, I just took this like hiatus from relationships and dating and I didn't even think about it and just focused on healing and getting better.
Yeah, that's hard to hear. That's
Hmm.
really, really hard to hear. You're not the first patient I've talked to that's had that experience. And, if I think back just in life, I think there's some dating relationships that weather this, but it oftentimes is a lot for someone to embrace. I can see the side of that, but I also see where you're sitting and how devastating that is to think, "Oh, great, this just is another thing cancer took from me."
Hmm. Yeah, and I think why I was frustrated is because I understand it's a lot, but I try to give him a way out, like, when I was diagnosed, like, "Look, I understand, you don't have to be with me just because I have cancer," but then to kinda, like, string me along for three more months was kind of my breaking point with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now I've kind of started dating. I don't know. I try to put myself out there on like the dating apps, but not having a ton of luck. And I also try to like, keep it realistic on the dating apps, like post pictures of what I look like now because I don't want to like catfish somebody basically or I don't want them to show up and be surprised at how I look because I know that, like, my face and my body and obviously my hair, has changed so much. I don't look like what I did a year ago, so I do have, pictures of me as of today or whatever, and so, yeah, not having a ton of luck, but that's alright.
I know it well, I think it's hard anyways, but I can only imagine the extra hard with,
Mhm.
with that. I hear you saying, like, you wanted to make connections and friends, cancer
Mhm.
friends, which I think is so funny. I call 'em my cancer friends too. Like, I don't call them my, like, fishing friends or my,
Yeah.
reading friends, but I call 'em my cancer friends, and I can speak to how important that is. It only takes one, right? Like, it only takes one, and I've met very, very many of them. I have many virtual cancer friends who I love dearly and I keep up with. But then I've had the chance to meet some in real life and in person, should you say, and it is just such a, I don't know, life-giving type experience. Um, and being in Iowa and, maybe I don't know what the lung cancer rate is like in Iowa. I can't really speak to that, but being in Kentucky, we're the tobacco capital of the world. We're the leading in lung cancer. But even I had a hard time and I was 43 and I was meeting people who are 60 and 70 and I was like, this is not really the same thing. I don't know if you've looked into like First Descents or Elephants and Tea. They focus on people diagnosed, I think 45 or younger, because I still qualified in that for a while. And it's a great place to meet. Maybe you may not meet a lung cancer patient, but you could possibly meet someone in a similar situation. But my mission is going to be to find somebody that we can find for you.
Yeah, that would be great. I have
This
heard
would be
of
my
those.
personal mission.
Yeah. I have heard of those organizations, I guess. Yeah, I think that's what I'm lacking, though, is, like, the in-person connection because I do have
Mhm.
some Instagram friends
Right.
with the young lung cancer group, but that's what's really missing for me, and I think I get bummed out when I see, like, my cancer friends online, like, meeting up and, it's just not maybe realistic for me to meet up with somebody over the
Yes.
weekend because I live so far away, but, yeah, I would love to, maybe go to an event or something where I can finally meet everyone, and I'll definitely have to look into those 2
And
organizations.
I'll think on some others, but I was so fortunate to be connected with someone pretty quickly after I was diagnosed. I was 43 and she was 30. So I was 13 years older than her. I kept telling her, I'm like, "You're lung cancer mom." And she's like, "No, you're not." Like, even though she had really small kids and I had big kids, but we lived 15 minutes away from each other and it was like instant connection. And it was the hope and the life and the love that I needed. It was sitting in the same space with someone who understood. Even though she was ALK positive and I was EGFR, we were both stage 4. We just got it. I mean, it was
Mhm.
just then I do feel like every patient deserves that. In fact, I interviewed a patient last week and she was like giving a shout out to the girl that she met in real life in her hometown. And I was like, it only takes one. So that's gonna be my new personal mission. And I am I go on deep dives. You may not know who I come up with you. They may not be 30. They might be old like me, like 43 when I was with Elizabeth at 30. But, just someone that's female, someone that's younger or
Fantastic. I'd love that.
okay, well, I can't make any promises, but I'm
Okay.
gonna try my hardest to find someone for you to meet in real life. You don't see them every day, but even if you just it's a couple times a year and you talk, it's just it's amazing. So, all of you followers out there, everybody
Yeah.
that's watching, if you know someone near Clara, we're gonna help her out because that person may need someone too. So, I think that's important, very, very important. And saying putting that I love how you said, "I don't even know if I want children."
Mhm.
But I wanted it to be my choice.
Right, exactly.
And so much of our lives are no longer a choice for us. Things that we thought, were gonna be a given aren't always that way.
And I know some people freeze their eggs, but I didn't
Mhm.
even know about doing all that until I was
Wasn't
already, like, knee deep in chemo by the time I've learned about that, and so I unfortunately kind of missed the window, but another part of that, though, is, like, even if I do, miraculously have my own biological children, I don't know if I'll not to be morbid, but I don't know if I'll be around to see them grow up, and that's kind of something I have to think about too is that fair for them?
I know. It's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard. There's so many I call this an onion. There's so many layers to this onion that unless you're living it, people don't think about. Anything else about kind of how life has changed or what you thought would be different or what's hard about being 30 with lung cancer?
I guess for me, it's given me this opportunity, like I said, because I'm unemployed, and I guess it's kind of given me this opportunity to think about what I want to do for the rest of my life, like career wise or whatever. And so I've always wanted to be an artist and just sell my art. And I'm starting to work on some projects. I have some projects over here in the corner that I'm looking at and hoping to maybe get like a booth at a like art fair or something where they have different vendors and sell some stuff. And not everything that I'm creating it revolves around cancer, but it is like a nice creative outlet to do that and get some, release some emotions with creating stuff. So
I agree.
that's yeah, so that's kind of been a blessing in disguise. Is now I can focus on stuff that, or I can give time to things that I really love and care about.
To fill you up.
Yeah.
Don't cause additional stress because we don't need any of that. And I think being brave enough to share with us what you're going through and put yourself there out there on social media. I watch. I think what you're doing is great. I think this is what the world needs to see is that we are people. We're not just numbers and statistics. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And I'm sure your parents are proud of you and your friends. And my wish for you is happiness and health. And I really appreciate your time this morning. I think
Yeah.
this will be something that a lot of viewers, whether they have lung cancer or a different type of cancer, or just maybe they're just the lucky ones that are healthy, are going to learn a lot from this. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And Young Lung Cancer Initiative is what we are today because of the patients like you.
Aw, that's so sweet. You're gonna make me cry.
So I don't want to make you cry. Don't cry. But thank you really, truly for being here and sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.